Election stakeholders, socio-political enthusiasts, and others believe that the greatest threat to enthronement and consolidation of democratic governance around the world is electoral violence, be it pre or post-elections. Experts also say the propelling forces and determinants, especially in developing countries like Nigeria, are issues of godfatherism, money bag politics, sentiments, either religious or ethnic, poverty and ignorance, among others. This is the focus of our program 30 Minutes this week as we interrogate the imperative of violent-free elections in Nigeria. Welcome to 30 Minutes. I'm Lydia Sampson. Welcome back. Let's begin this conversation with our correspondent Yemi Ajayi as he takes us globally on the imperatives of violent-free polls. Yemi, it's over to you.
Elections in any part of the world give the people the opportunity to choose who they want to lead them. The electoral process, though, could be tough, especially when strong contenders are in the race, but at the end, a winner emerges, and others are expected to accept the results as announced by the electoral umpire, or they seek redress in a competent court of law. Worthy of note are a series of activities that characterize the election period, one of which includes violence, all in the course of ensuring a particular candidate wins the election.
The causes of violence during the election is the desperation of politicians, which are premeditated by the large volume of expenditures on electioneering campaigns. People who lose elections find out that they have lost their life savings, they have lost their income or loans. People take loans to contest election. Another reason for violence during election are what we call the instigative, inflammatory hate speeches across social media by followers and supporters of politicians. These statements are taken a little bit too far, and they infuriate the opposition and they cause violence. A third reason for violence in elections is inter-party disputes and discrepancies. A lot of water go under the bridge before a candidate emerges in Nigeria, and this has caused the other candidates, even within the party, to take a very confrontational attitude. A lot of sabotages, a lot of prejudices take place during and after elections, and this we have to set up a very strong system, possible legal system, to ward off this steam.
People are not well sensitized. Our level of education and exposure, and then our democracy generally is still young. So if people are sensitized properly, they will not. There will be peace at any election. And then at times the leadership also incite people to go on violence in some places.
In Africa, electoral violence has been a major challenge that has caused death of many as well as unrest in different quarters. Analysts have pointed accusing fingers at the political gladiators who instigate their followers against each other.
I think you look at the economic situation of the entire country. Most of our youth are unemployed. They don't have something to engage in. They don't have something to do much. So you find them, people using them as thugs, giving them drugs. Most of them are on drugs when they become thugs. And in that case, you find that most of the youth that are involved are not youth that have poor education, from poor background, poor family. You hardly see a son of a councillor. participating as a son. So that is why you see them shouting, say guys, do this, and that, you know.
There are several stakeholders in the electoral process, like in our nation, and all the stakeholders should be blamed. I'm talking about number one, the umpire themselves, INEC, must sit up and be seen as being unbiased, as fair to all parties. Number two people that should be blamed is our system. Our system does not punish electoral violators. It rather sets up tribunal to decide real winners, recount the votes. So it's more of a biased system of only to be sure who has really won. So there are not enough tribunals to judge electoral cases. For instance, if you have won an election and you are now whoever you are, there are no sufficient indictment in the eyes of the law to bring your supporters to punitive measurement for the number of people they kill or maim or the blood they shed. Another stakeholder that should be blamed are the electorates themselves. I'm afraid to say that the electorates are number one movers and proposers of violence. The candidates don't carry guns. Candidates don't carry machetes. But the followers do. And I believe that party followers, candidate followers should carry their PVC. Arm yourself with PVC, not with AK-47. The blood of nobody should be sufficient for anybody to win any election. And so you find out that all the stakeholders are indirectly partners in crime in perpetuating electoral violence. And because they are partners in crime and there are no sufficient punitive measure after the elections, this continues, this generationally in every 4 years, where people who have armed themselves ready to kill and maim. Because after a winner has been declared, nobody discusses the number of people killed, no assessment. Even the election monitoring team are only monitoring the voting process. They are not monitoring the violent process.
Nigeria is not left out in these menace, as campaigns have been intensified on the need for the people not to see elections as a do-or-die affair.
INEC has a great role to play. INEC must ensure that before the elections are conducted, sensitive and non-sensitive materials are delivered in good time and distributed to the 119,973 polling units. Sensitive materials for collation of results. INEC must also ensure that the sensitive materials are distributed to the 8,809 wards. Now, ad hoc staff have been recruited by INEC. INEC must ensure that adequate ad hoc staff are properly briefed, and they must ensure that party agents, accredited party agents, man this 119,973 polling units. Now, during the election, accreditation must start in good time. Registered voters must be accredited in good time. Faulty reading machines, contingency must be made for replacement in good time. They must ensure also that the stipulated time that votes will commence, it commences duly on time, and ensure that all accredited voters cast their votes. Ensure that votes are counted at the coalition center at the presence of everybody, results are recorded and then forwarded to the coalition units. Now, the other agency that has a critical role to play is the police and the armed forces. They must provide a fair, level playing field. They must not be biased. They must ensure that only accredited party agents and INEC ad hoc staff are at the polling units. They must ensure that they deploy staff to all the 119,973 polling units, adequate staff must be deployed, especially the nooks and crannies of our states. Now, the police and members of the armed forces must also ensure that no state government deploy civilian joint task force or hunters to man polling units, because that's a recipe for chaos and violence. And that is where ballot boxes are snatched. Political thugs should not be deployed to polling units. Canvassers should not be allowed by security agencies on the day of voting to be following people in the queue and be buying votes. That should not be allowed. If it is done, of course, that will generate tension. Other political parties will feel cheated, and that is where violence can erupt.
Experts have advised that Nigeria should learn from other countries battling with civil unrest due to electoral violence, and likewise, there is the need to learn from other countries believed to be getting it right with our electoral process.
So peace is critical to development, and that is why whatever happens, after these elections, we expect that Nigerians have matured to a level where they will allow due process to take its course. Anybody who feels aggrieved, there are due process for you to go and express your grievances and to be addressed. Our President Muhammad Buhari, has been to court 3 times. And of course, as God will have it, where justice is the guiding principle, where people are given fair level playing field, equity, fairness, regardless of tribal or religious or political affiliations, then of course there will be peace. So in most of the developed countries, you find that there is justice. You find that to a large extent there is equity. There is level playing field. People are given the opportunity to express their views. And that is what makes them more civilized, if I may use that word. You see, the winner takes all syndrome is what has been the recipe for violence in Africa. We have turned politics into a do or die affair. And people are willing to go the extra mile. If you do that, then you are creating a cesspool of violence.
A candidate should even be disqualified by the number of opponents that has been killed on his behalf or wounded on his behalf. This will cause stakeholders, contestants, to call their followers to order. You cannot win an election when corpses are spreading all over the street. Nobody should have a ticket on the altar of the lives of men and women who are citizens of Nigeria.
The Nigerian Television Authority News 24 channel, your dependable all-round news station, offering you world-class news programs, documentaries, spotlights, promos, and information highlights. Take advantage of our network reach and advertise your interest, goods and services with us. NTA News 24, first among equals with digital broadcasting. You can reach us on Channel 21 Terrestrial TV and Channel 101 on the Star Times platform. For more inquiries, please call Henry on 0803 379 0884. Join us today.
In Nigeria, the 2019 elections are here with us. Let me bring to you what Nigerians feel about a peaceful, free, fair election. There is no denying that free, fair, credible and peaceful elections form the foundation on which to build solid democracy anywhere in the world. The challenges, however, are many, particularly as it concerns Nigeria's politics. This is because, beyond the crude and cruel antics of cajoling and coercing electorates with money, politicians also adapt to whipping up waves of sentiments of religion and ethnicity to swing in their electoral favor. Instead of programs to ameliorate poverty, some politicians also make fanciful promises they know they don't intend to keep. The suffering masses therefore resort to taking bags of rice, salt, sugar, vegetable oil, and now raw cash from political leaders who remember them only during electioneering. This has given birth to vote buying, with sharing formula leading often to violence. So the question is, how ready are Nigerians to ensure violent-free elections this time around?
The best thing we can do is to ensure free and fair election, and don't allow anybody to use you, and vote for your choice candidate. But for me, I will say it doesn't worth it. Those people that are using you, why not use their kids? And you know, the people they use mostly are like people that don't have anybody to speak for them, and you know, they don't go to school, because if one is educated, somebody cannot use him.
We had a meeting with the INEC, and we went to sign an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with them. We've been calling for meetings. We've been calling our chairman and zonal chairman, you know, to sensitize them about the importance of this exercise, and also about the importance of security, the importance of making sure that nothing happens as to cause violence among people, and so on and so forth. And that is more reason why also we've taken a very hard stand against being partisan, against partisanship.
People should be law-abiding, and people should avoid being desperate for power, knowing fully that power belongs to God, and this is our nation. We have no any other country we can call our own, apart of Nigeria. Nigeria is our country, so we need to have it in mind that we need to work towards peace and peaceful election.
The security agencies have been put in place, and how these electoral materials will be moved across the whole 36 states. The IGP have assured us when we pay him a courtesy call. So our own is to cooperate, to call on Nigerians to cooperate with these agencies to make sure that we have a free, violent, credible election come Saturday and the gubernatorial candidate.
So the problem why we have violence during election is because we have politicians who are not sincere, who are not honest, who have ulterior motive. They are not coming to serve the people, they are coming to serve themselves. So anything that stands on their way, and anyone that stands on their way, is perceived as a threat or enemy that should be exterminated. You know, so we, for example, are running in our party, Abunda Nigeria Renewal Party, to renew Nigeria. We believe Nigeria is a country of great promise.
The good news is that with more awareness and strategic engagements amongst critical stakeholders, the people are optimistic that Nigerians will not engage in violence witnessed in previous elections.
Violence breeds no good. You will know the beginning of a violent situation, but you can never predict the extent of its damage. I want to tell us here that in my home party, Alliance National Party, we are sensitizing people, our followers, our party members, down to the grassroots to ensure that they give peace a chance, they ensure that there is no violence in whatsoever level or at any form of provocation. They should try to refer it to the right quarters and not try to go into any violence move with anybody.
Women should not be used for violence, and they should teach their kids how to go about this election. You know, as a mother or as a woman, you should talk to your children. Violence is not good, you know, so you have to stand there and don't allow anybody to use it. As I said earlier on, make sure the women, and I will advise the women as a mother, sister, daughter, women should not allow anybody to use them for violence, because it doesn't worth it.
We've told our members that this exercise, we are coming into it with a lot of patriotism, and we want them to, you know, take part, to regard it as a national duty, you know, as a call to national duty. And I'm happy that the response so far is quite positive. Our national president just convened a meeting of all the zonal chairmen just recently, about last week, We had it here in our conference room. We discussed with all of them. We told them that it is very important for us to carry out this assignment with decorum and decency to make sure that people don't engage in any form of violence or partisanship.
The way and manner our campaigns are done is wrong. You see, we want to pack a crowd into a stadium, into a large place. I want to send it down the minds of those who are watching. See our crowd. We have the people. Yeah. Is this the way it's done abroad? Most politics in abroad campaigns are town hall meetings. People are seated. They are made comfortable to hear you, to understand what you want to do for them, and then to ask questions and for you to clear their doubts. So with that kind of environment, the more the crowd, the more unsavory it becomes. So you need, as small audience as possible to be able to resonate with the people, connect with them, and send your message across. So our people, our politicians mostly have no message to pass. They just want to shout. They want the place to be rowdy and noisy. And anywhere there's rowdy, violence cannot be far away from such. And then that's number one. Number two, because they have always used and dumped the youth. So most of them find no reason for living. So they have settled for drugs, settled for, alcohol and, codeine. So, for example, the first meeting I had, even though it was a town hall meeting, I found about 6 or 7 guys behaving unruly, and their mouths were smelling. I know they were high on drug, and our marshals went to them, calmed them down, and asked them to listen, that they will hear something that will touch them from what we had to say. And that was what happened that day. So, if we want to use the youth and move them to a higher level of their fulfillment, we will not abandon them when we have won election and make them to be touts and urchins that will come and pick up in 4 years' time, and they will be doing the dirty work for us.
Another major factor is ignorance, as voters view their political leaders as demigods to be feared and worshipped, not knowing that in democracy, the power belongs to voters and not to oppressing politicians.
My advice for all youths and for everyone, even those who are contesting, that 1, they shouldn't be too desperate. 2, the youths that are involved, they should not allow anybody to influence them against themselves, because it's like influencing you against yourself. Some will be killed, and once you are killed, you are no more. Nobody can replace you again. You understand? So you should work towards that. Nobody should come and influence you with money, with anything. You should vote. Your vote is your right. And that is what the president keeps speaking about. So we should work towards it. We should work towards having a peaceful nation.
We've come quite a long way. Nigerians are beginning to believe there, and the awareness is everywhere that elections is not a matter of do or die affair. It's just a matter of electing the right kind of caliber of people to provide the kind of leadership that the country wants. And so people are very, very keen on seeing that the elections hold in a peaceful atmosphere and that the right caliber of people are elected. That is all they're interested.
Appeal here is to the members is to make sure that, as was agreed on, 1, before they should make sure the vehicle one are roadworthy, and they should make sure that as we arrange and cooperate with the INEC, anywhere they direct them, they should comply, and they should make sure they wait till after the election and bring the personnel and the material back to their destination.
The INEC, as far as I know, are trying in that direction to ensure that party candidates are, brought together and they are being counseled on how to encourage their followers to imbibe peace. And the peace accord signed by candidates, if they look at it holistically, it's not just for the black and white record purpose. It's for you to ensure that when you go back home, you are going to ensure that everything, goes peacefully. And as such, I believe what they have done, if we have the service, oriented mind, like I do, you will not want anybody to be wounded on your own accord. You will not want anybody to get killed just because you want to assume a particular office. Nobody's life is worth a vote for me. We want to still encourage the people, viewers out there, to vote right, to vote for candidates who are service-driven, candidates they believe in that will be able to represent them. We want them not to sell their votes, not to, jeopardize the future of unborn generation by doing that. We want them to vote right for candidates that will serve the interests of the people.
Amongst hurdles on the part of good leadership in the country that leads to violence is mass poverty on the part of millions of electorates scattered all over rural areas who believe politics is skewed in favor of the rich. In all this, education is said to be a major strategy, an antidote to mitigating this democratic impediment. That ends 30 Minutes this week. Join us again next week for a bumper package. Bye. I'm Lydia Sampson.